Amanda knew she was not allowed to open up the ancient Jesus statue she was tasked to repair. But when she figured out there was actually something inside there, she could not help her own curiosity. And so, without the church's knowledge, she cut the wooden statue open. But she found something inside that she was never supposed to see. Amanda was still in shock by what she had just seen after opening up the ancient Jesus statue. She could not believe that the church had been hiding this from everybody for what had to be decades, or maybe even a century. Amanda wondered if the current pastor even had any idea about this. But either way, she was not going to tell him about it. He would probably just try to cover it up. This was something that she was going to go straight to the police with. The religious world would end up being completely shaken up by Amanda's discovery. And to think that a simple sound gave the secret away. But what had Amanda found inside the Jesus statue? Why did the police have to get involved? And what had the church been hiding for so long? When Amanda received a note from the church, she was a little confused. She didn't know anyone at the church personally. They invited her to work on a secret project. They didn't mention what it would be, but it seemed important. Amanda wondered why they would ask her to work on this project, not a bigger, more skilled person. She accepted the invitation, and in a few days, the whole town knew about it. She started to hear gossip about what she was meant to restore. She listened to the craziest things: old paintings, enchanted bells, and even a coffin of the late priest. But they weren't even close. This was something far more important. Amanda met with the priest. He told her what she had to restore, and she couldn't believe what she was hearing. This was far bigger than she anticipated. She had never done anything like this before. But Amanda isn't one to give up easily. She knew she could restore this piece to its old glory, no matter what it took. Many people heard that Amanda was to restore the famous old Jesus statue, and many people disagreed. Everyone loved that statue. They didn't believe Amanda was capable of getting the job done, but Amanda was about to prove them wrong. It did not help that Amanda was not a religious person, and although she was born in a small town, she had spent most of her adulthood elsewhere before moving back to open the shop. This fact angered some of the more devoted congregants. It seemed like blasphemy that someone like Amanda would care for their savior on earth. But Amanda brushed off the negativity. It was true the project could have gone to a bigger firm in nearby cities or a more religious shop in their town. But it had gone to her, and she would not be discouraged. The statue would be arriving in a day, and after that, she would have a week to restore it before service on Easter Sunday. It was clear that she was not the only one feeling the pressure. The senior pastor himself was present the next morning to supervise the delivery of the statue. He explained the history of the statue and how it had come to the ownership of the church. Amanda smiled and nodded, knowing the profile would help ensure she used the right tools. But before leaving, the pastor mentioned something else. Amanda had listened intently and was excited to put the knowledge to use. But the pastor was not done. He had one last crucial detail to share with Amanda. He shared that Amanda was not to worry about strange happenings that might occur in the following week. He explained in a comforting tone that the artifact was holy, and although it attracted mystic powers, it would also protect her. Amanda nodded at the older gentleman. She thanked him and told him that she would keep that in mind. But internally, she was rolling her eyes. She was not a religious person, and even less of a believer in mystical forces. All she wanted was to get started on the project that would either make or break her career going forward. Strange powers. Yeah, right. Finally, the pastor and moving crew were gone. Amanda spent the rest of the day doing a more thorough inspection of the statue. This would help her get a better understanding of the damages and how she would tackle the repair process. A history profile was good, but it was clear the church had a tendency to embellish on details. By the time Amanda came up from her workroom, the sun had set. She stretched her arms. She was exhausted and eager to head home. Checking the time, she frowned. It was a good thing that she had come up now. It was already late evening. Grabbing her things and turning off the lights, Amanda was about to shut the door when she heard a strange noise. Amanda paused in alarm. What could that sound possibly be? And where had it come from? She had never heard it before, and she had rented the small-town shop for a little over 3 years. Amanda took a few steps back into the store. She did a quick search of the building to see if a small animal had broken in, but she found nothing. None of her artifacts were out of place. She waited a few more minutes, but heard nothing. She shook her head and decided it was a fluke. But she would soon discover how wrong she was. Amanda returned to the workshop. The next morning, Amanda returned to the store bright and early. She was eager to get to work on the wooden piece she had left covered on her table. But there was also another reason. She wanted to inspect the store once more. Opening the door, she went through the store and discovered nothing amiss. However, she couldn't fight the odd sensation that niggled her. First, she would remove parts. She laughed at herself. It seemed the old pastor's words may have gotten to her after all. Focusing on her assignment, she plotted out her work and began dismantling the fragile parts of the wooden piece. She would need to repair them separately before reattaching the artifact as a whole. She took a small wood saw. She had gotten the edges off when things took a strange turn. Using her small wood saw, she carefully worked through the more rigid parts of the statue. The hands. It was a delicate design, so Amanda knew she would need to be careful. But before she could dig in, she heard a familiar sound from last night. Amanda could not believe it. There was no mistaking it this time. She had not been hallucinating out of exhaustion. She also held another advantage from last night. She knew exactly where the sound was coming from. However, this knowledge did not put her at ease, because the noise had come from inside the statue. It was like the statue reacted. Amanda jumped back in alarm. The noise was startling, but even more concerning to the shop owner were the consequences she began outlining in her mind. Had she damaged this historical artifact? Was this mystical statue physically reacting to her cutting? It was not a logical explanation, but staring down at the statue, she could not think of one. Amanda frowned. She was making no sense. There had to be a logical explanation. The statue was hollow and old, and cutting into the wood could have released trapped air. At least, that's what she hoped. But as she examined the cut, she realized something unsettling. It wasn't deep enough for air to escape. The source of the sound remained a mystery. Determined, she steadied her hand and carefully sawed into the wooden hand, taking care not to cause irreparable damage. But this time, there was no sound. Confused, she brushed off the sawdust and used her phone's flashlight to peer inside. It revealed nothing. Frustrated but intrigued, she gently wiggled the statue, hoping to hear the noise again. Nothing. She had already broken her contract by removing the statue's hand. If she had gone this far, why stop now? Amanda needed to see inside the torso, but cutting into it without causing noticeable damage would be difficult. She debated stopping altogether. Then, after careful consideration, she found the perfect spot: the statue's rear. It was slightly protruding, and no one at the church would likely inspect it closely. She knocked on the wood, listening for echoes to find the best entry point. If she wanted to uncover the cause of the sound, This was her best chance. This was the most thrilling and riskiest moment of her career. It could destroy her reputation as a woodworker. But despite the risks, she grabbed her tools and began. For 30 minutes, she worked meticulously, but the sound never returned. Doubt crept in. Had she imagined it? Anxiety tightened her stomach with every cut. If the church found out, the consequences would be severe. If they would, the church group, especially the skeptical members, would surely inform the police of her breach of contract. Worse, the religious higher-ups might be even less forgiving. But all those concerns faded as Amanda finally cut open the statue's base, revealing a hollow interior. The damage was fixable, but what truly mattered was the object inside. With trembling hands, she pulled it out, a small device. Amanda had no idea what it was, but one thing was clear. It didn't belong in an ancient statue. She placed it on the workbench, examining it closely. It was modern, likely placed there within the last 20 to 25 years. Who put it there? And why? Amanda debated informing the church, but quickly dismissed the idea. If they knew about it, they wouldn't be pleased that she had exposed it. Worse, they might try to silence her. For her safety, someone else needed to know. The police seemed like the best option. When she called, the officers were skeptical. Cutting open a holy statue in a religious area was unusual, and they warned her that if the device turned out to be insignificant, she would be held responsible for property damage. Still, Amanda stood by her decision. 20 minutes later, the police arrived at her shop. She was nervous, but their immediate reaction to the device assured her she had done the right thing. The officers contacted their superior, and within minutes, Amanda was taken to the church alongside the device. Upon arrival, the police confronted the pastor. Amanda stood at a distance, watching as the officers questioned him. When they revealed the device, the pastor's expression changed. He knew he was caught. While the pastor was being arrested, an officer explained everything to Amanda. The device was a recording tool, secretly placed inside the statue. The pastor had used it to listen to private confessions made by churchgoers. By knowing their secrets, he could manipulate them into returning to the church, believing he had divine knowledge of their sins. A few weeks later, the truth was confirmed. The sound Amanda had heard inside the statue had been a low battery notification. By acting on her curiosity, she had unknowingly prevented further harm to countless churchgoers.